I was paying attention to Street Fighter V beta. I was there. I was a part of it. It's just that I was under the impression that being a guy who's not good at Street Fighter, I wasn't really that qualified, right, to say whether or not Street Fighter V is good or bad. I wasn't that qualified because I'm not that good at Street Fighter. I had no real appreciable Street Fighter skill. So when the beta was getting worse, I was saying to myself, well, maybe the beta is getting worse for these top tier guys. But for me, I don't even know the first thing about a shimmy. I gotta learn to do that shit. So how can I judge the game before I've learned to do anything with it? That was my defense. That was my defense. It still kind of is. When people are like, how did you not know this would be shit? I still say, because I was no good at the game and I wanted to learn to be good before I said, fuck this game. It's never going to be good. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to achieve some sort of a decent skill level or something. I didn't even really get that far into it. And the problem is because Street Fighter V is really boring to play. It's really boring and there's not a lot of options. I guess that's it. I don't feel like there's anything I can really do. It just comes down to, do I press the button at a better time than the other guy? And that's not very fun. Like in Tekken, I think a lot of people have like parries, right? They have like a parry move that they could, you know, do. That they could just kind of whip out. I didn't mean to fire that. So like if a guy is hitting a lot of buttons in Street Fighter V, and they're all buttons that allow him to be plus after the deal, right? Plus frames, he's in advantage. He could keep applying pressure, and if I try and press a button, he's going to beat it out. Assuming that's how he's working. If people do that, then they can kind of evolve their strategy from that way. I can't really challenge that. Especially as Alex, because he doesn't have a 3-frame jab. So what am I supposed to do as Alex? Well, I kind of have to let them apply their pressure, and I either have to bank on one moment that's like really a star-strung moment. If he comes in for like a grab, I gotta feel out when he's gonna go for that grab. That sense of like feeling for the grab through that pressure is not satisfying even when I succeed, because it kind of feels like I'm guessing. It doesn't feel like I learn the game's mechanics to a level where I know this is what I need to do. It's not really that. It's just, well, I think this guy is going to press it here. And that's a vital thing to have in fighting games, but if that's all you have in the fighting game, I feel like that really brings down the overall experience. And that's sort of why I don't like Street Fighter V. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. But I've decided that I don't like Street Fighter V, and I don't really want to pursue it. I might still play it a little bit, but right now it's all about Tekken. And then when somebody asks me why I don't like Street Fighter V, like Lord of Chaos, he likes Street Fighter V. I want to be able to tell him that I don't feel satisfied when I do the things I'm supposed to do. And part of it is because there's no real options to getting out of anything except to just eat whatever it is they're doing. Yeah, some people have parries. Everyone in the game has a low parry. That's amazing, a low parry. And you do a low parry very safely. It's almost like third strike. You just press down and forward, and I think like the very first chunk of frames, like maybe the first 10 frames or something of pressing down and forward are a low parry window. So if they hit you with a low, you parry it during that moment. I mean, that's kind of like third strike, right? Third strike, you just either press down. Was it just down or forward? Could you press down and then or forward and you would get a parry in third strike? But I think in third strike it was more like one frame. So there wasn't really that open window that Tekken you can kind of throw it out there. And it's safe because all you're doing is pressing down and forward. Of course, if they hit you with a mid or something, you're fucked. But that's not because you hit down and forward. That's because you hit down. You're in crouch, and if someone hits you with a medium or an overhead and you're crouching, you're fucked. But that's not necessarily the low parry's fault. That's because you were crouching's fault. You tried to bank on a low parry. But I mean, nothing stops you from just like tapping down and forward and then standing right back up and see if you catch a low parry or something. In fact, I think that's how a lot of good Tekken players, they incorporate that little like down forward ticks into their gameplay. Maybe if they come out of a recovery and their recovery is like a really long one, sometimes their only defense against an incoming punish is to try and get that low parry out of the way. Sometimes that's the only way you can get out of that situation. That is such a depth of mechanics that I'm nowhere near, but it's insanely appealing to me because I can work on that. I can work to get to that point where I can start incorporating low parries into my moveset as a form of defense. Not just as like a random call out when I think a low's coming, but actually incorporate it regularly, you know, like a flowchart or something. Street Fighter V doesn't have anything like that. Like, I don't think it does. I mean, maybe some characters do, but I don't think so, because everybody's screaming about how it doesn't really have any depth to it. It's just, you kind of guess. You just kind of guess. I don't know. Lord of Chaos is a unique person, okay? He's not a bad person. He's just unique. That's all. He's a unique guy from Canada. He's from Canada, so you gotta give him a little bit of, you know, a little bit of room. Let him be Canadian.